They were outnumbered, surrounded, starving, exhausted, and already written off as dead. Military experts would later say these battles should never have been won. The numbers made no sense. The terrain offered no mercy. Supplies were gone. Retreat was impossible. And yet, against every rule of war and logic, these battles still happened, and they were won. Not by chance, not by luck alone, but by moments where human will, desperation, strategy, and sheer defiance rewrote history. These are the battles that should have been impossible, but still happened. Throughout history, war has followed patterns. Bigger armies usually win. Better weapons dominate. Stronger supply lines decide outcomes. But every so often, a battle breaks all the rules. These moments become legends not because they were clean victories, but because they were survival stories written in blood. They remind us that history is not only shaped by numbers, but by decisions made when defeat seems certain. One of the most famous impossible victories belongs to ancient Greece, at the Battle of Marathon. The Persian Empire sent a massive invasion force to crush the smaller Greek city-states. Against them stood Athens, with an army that was vastly inferior in numbers, resources, and experience. Logic said the Greeks should wait behind walls or surrender. Instead, they charged. The Athenian hoplites ran straight into the Persian lines, using heavy armor and tight formation to smash through lighter troops. What should have been a massacre became a stunning victory. The Persian army retreated, shocked and defeated. That single battle saved Greek independence and reshaped Western civilization. Without it, democracy itself might never have survived. Centuries later, Rome faced its own impossible nightmare at the Battle of Cannae. Here, Rome was the one with overwhelming numbers. Hannibal, leading a smaller Carthaginian force deep inside enemy territory, should have been crushed. Instead, he executed one of the greatest tactical maneuvers in military history. Hannibal allowed his center to bend and retreat, drawing the Roman legions inward. Then his cavalry and flanks closed in from all sides. The Roman army was completely encircled. Tens of thousands were slaughtered in hours. It was not just a defeat, it was annihilation. Against logic, against numbers, Hannibal proved that strategy could turn certain death into total victory. In medieval Europe, one of the most unlikely victories occurred at the Battle of Agincourt. The English army, led by King Henry V, was exhausted, starving, and outnumbered by French forces that dwarfed them. The French were confident, armored, and ready to crush the English once and for all. But rain turned the battlefield into a swamp of mud. As French knights advanced, they sank, slowed, and collapsed under the weight of their armor. English longbowmen rained arrows into helpless ranks. What should have been England's destruction became a devastating French defeat. Thousands of nobles died. Agincourt became a symbol of how arrogance and environment can destroy even the strongest army. In Asia, one of the most astonishing defenses in history took place during the siege of Xianyang in China. Mongol forces, the most feared military power on earth, surrounded the city for years. Their siege weapons were unmatched. Their reputation alone crushed morale across continents. Yet Xianyang held. Its defenders adapted, resisted, and survived against an enemy that had flattened entire civilizations. When the city finally fell, it had delayed Mongol expansion for so long that it changed the balance of power in the region. Sometimes, survival itself becomes victory. During the Crusades, the Battle of Montchaussade stunned the medieval world. Saladin, the greatest Muslim commander of his era, led a massive army against a much smaller Crusader force. The Crusaders were young, poorly supplied, and completely outmatched. But they attacked first, striking Saladin's scattered troops before they could fully organize. Chaos spread through the Muslim camp. Against all odds, the Crusaders routed an army many times their size. Even Saladin himself barely escaped. The victory shocked both sides and proved that timing could outweigh numbers. In Japan, the Battle of Sekigahara should never have ended the way it did. Two massive armies faced each other in a decisive struggle for control of the country. The battlefield was fog-covered, alliances uncertain, and betrayal hung in the air. Tokugawa Ieyasu's forces were not guaranteed victory. Many units were undecided or secretly hostile. At a critical moment, key generals switched sides mid-battle. What began as an evenly matched confrontation turned into a sudden collapse. Tokugawa emerged victorious and became shogun, unifying Japan for over 250 years. The impossible part was not just the win, but how quickly destiny changed through betrayal. In the New World, the Battle of Otumba stands as one of history's strangest victories. Hernán Cortés and his Spanish force were retreating, starving, wounded, and hunted by overwhelming Aztec armies. They were nearly destroyed, but instead of fleeing blindly, Cortés focused on a single target, the Aztec commander. In a desperate charge, Spanish cavalry broke through and killed him. Aztec forces, stunned by the loss of leadership, withdrew. Against every expectation, the Spaniards survived and eventually returned to conquer the empire. One strike changed the fate of an entire continent. Modern warfare did not end impossible battles. During World War II, the defense of Dunkirk should have ended in total disaster. Hundreds of thousands of Allied soldiers were trapped against the sea, surrounded by German forces. Destruction seemed inevitable, yet through a combination of delayed attacks, air defense, and a civilian evacuation effort unlike anything before, over 300,000 troops were rescued. Small boats crossed dangerous waters under fire. It was not a battlefield victory, but it saved the Allied war effort. What should have been a catastrophic loss became a turning point of survival. Another impossible stand came at the Battle of Stalingrad. German forces advanced deep into Soviet territory, confident of victory. The city was bombed into rubble, supplies were cut. Winter arrived. Soviet defenders fought house to house, room to room, often with nothing but knives and desperation. Against all odds, they held long enough to encircle the German army. Hundreds of thousands were captured or killed. The battle broke the momentum of Nazi Germany and changed the course of the war. It was not just a battle. It was a grinding refusal to die. Even in ancient times, smaller forces repeatedly defied destruction. At Thermopylae, the Spartans and their allies were doomed from the start. They knew they would not survive, yet they held the Persian army long enough to inspire Greece to unite and fight back. The battle was lost, but the war was not. Sometimes, impossible battles are not about winning, but about buying time at the cost of everything. What connects all these battles is not luck alone. It is human decision under pressure. Commanders who saw opportunity where others saw defeat. Soldiers who fought not because victory was assured, but because surrender meant extinction. Terrain, weather, morale, leadership, and timing aligned in moments so rare they feel unreal. These battles remind us that war is not a machine. It is chaos shaped by human will. History often teaches us what should happen. These battles teach us what can happen when fear fails, when discipline holds, when one moment changes everything. Against numbers, against logic, against fate itself. They were impossible on paper. They were unthinkable in planning rooms, but they still happened. And because they did, the world we live in today exists as it does. Not because victory was guaranteed, but because someone refused to accept defeat.